It was only a few short years ago that Mercedes were the absolute pinnacle of Formula One. They dominated the sport in unprecedented fashion from 2014 till 2021, and even with the aerodynamic regulations changing in 2022, they were expected to carry on as frontrunners in the sport. While they remained capable of a podium finish when a track or condition suited them, their performance in the ground effect era has been underwhelming. This season, things have gotten even worse. Their customers McLaren have become the dominant force in the sport, finding innovation and performance late into the regulations, overthrowing Red Bull and setting themselves up for a first double championship since 1998. To see a customer team beat a factory team in such commanding fashion is unheard of in Formula One, and it is making Mercedes panic. On top of that, their drivers are struggling to really make an impact and find some consistency. Today, I'll check out the emergency meetings happening at Mercedes and what's going wrong with Antonelli, so don't go anywhere. There has been a lot of talk about the future of Mercedes and their driver lineup for next season. For a long time, it's looked like Max Verstappen could have been tempted out of Red Bull, and it was Toto Wolff who was willing to try and make it happen. In doing so, he's delayed contract talks with Andrea Kimi Antonelli and George Russell. But now, with Verstappen committing to Red Bull for at least another season, Wolff is going to have to stick with his current lineup. It was Russell whose future was in question, with Verstappen potentially making a move. And with no places at a top team available, the British driver will have been worried about where his future was going to take him. Since the Belgian Grand Prix, Sky Sports has reported that the prospective extension would be a multi-year deal, which will tie Russell to the team until at least the end of 2027. With the season just past its halfway stage, Russell has delivered his most complete F1 campaign to date, dragging the most out of Mercedes' inconsistent W16 to claim a victory and 4 further podium finishes. Let's be clear as well, he has had to drag that Mercedes. Ever since the first preseason practice session of the new regulations back in 2022, Mercedes have struggled with these aerodynamic regulations. The zero-pod idea took them down the wrong path with that early regulation development, and they never recovered. What has made the team's failings worse is how they've performed compared to their customers, specifically McLaren. Historically in Formula One, if a team produces its own engine, it has a large advantage over the teams that buy the engine from them. The engine in an F1 car has a huge impact on what you can do aerodynamically at the back end of the car. How the engine is designed affects where the gearbox sits and how it is constructed, which then also impacts how the rear suspension can be fitted at the back of the car. All of that then affects how the packaging around the internal components looks, which means the entire rear aerodynamics of the car is impacted by the engine design. When you build your own engine, you can build it and package it in a way that fits with your aerodynamic design goals. That means Mercedes designers can give the engine department a brief for how they want the engine to sit in the car to get the most performance from the aerodynamics, in theory giving them a huge advantage over a customer team. That customer team has essentially no say in how the engine is packaged. They can't make changes to make it fit with their aerodynamic design plan, and therefore have to make compromises between what they are given and what they want to do with the back end of the car. That is why what McLaren are doing this season with a Mercedes engine is so impressive, and why it's so embarrassing for Mercedes. With the likes of Ferrari and more recently Red Bull having been ridiculed for their poor performance and development during these regulations, Mercedes have mostly avoided any criticism. Especially considering we're now in the 4th year of these regulations, and Mercedes look just as lost about how their car works and how to improve it as they did in the first season. With a new set of regulations just around the corner and development already well underway for them, Mercedes are now starting to worry that potentially having the best engine isn't going to be enough to bring around another era of dominance like they began in 2014. In fact, they might be worrying that they're not even going to be podium contenders. In an attempt to understand what has gone wrong this season and over these entire regulations, Mercedes called a meeting at its Brackley factory on Monday with both of its drivers. Despite starting the season within touching distance of McLaren, a 1-3 result in Canada at a circuit that perfectly suited the characteristics of the W16 can't hide the fact that the team's form has fallen away. A largely lackluster performance at last weekend's Belgian Grand Prix, where Russell came home a lonely 5th, comfortably behind Charles Leclerc's Ferrari and Max Verstappen's Red Bull, was just another disappointment in a string of unimpressive results. Russell said the result fell well below expectations. It was very underwhelming in terms of the performance, he explained. We need to really understand what is going on and why we've taken such a backward step. These conditions in Belgium, you would argue, are ideal for us and our car. And once again, it's been the worst performance of the season, so we're going to have a big sit down this week and try to figure it out. Its core issue seems to be that both drivers are struggling with rear instability on corner entry. The team suspects that its woes have been triggered by recent developments, putting its car in a less happy place. Mercedes trackside engineering director Andrew Chauvelin said the mission now was to find out where along the way it has taken a wrong step with its car. We had, early on in the year, a car that was working well at pretty much every circuit, he said. We were generally fighting for the second row of the grid, if not the front row. It is quite likely something that we've changed on the car, and we just need to recover a bit. We need to get back to a baseline where it's working more normally. It's a very familiar story for Mercedes in these regulations. They have consistently brought updates that have had unintended consequences and then had no clue why things have gone wrong. Chauvelin said that getting together with the drivers was important to help the team get a proper handle on what particular aspect of its car may have sent it down the wrong path. And Mercedes is looking at seeing what changes it can make immediately, which could allow it to plot a recovery in time for this weekend's Hungarian Grand Prix. It's definitely possible for us to look at changing aspects of the car for Budapest, he said. How deep we go will depend on what parts we've got around us. There's quite a lot that we've changed, so we've got a meeting with the drivers on Monday to go through some of what we've done over the year, to try and make sure that our efforts are focused on the right things, not just changing things for the sake of it. Any changes for Mercedes at this point will be purely setup focused. They are nowhere near challenging for a championship this season, and with it being so important to start next season well, they won't be bringing any updates to try and help Russell and Antonelli out. The young Italian has been particularly affected by the Mercedes car becoming less stable with its upgrades this season. His podium in Canada is his only points in the last 7 races, 4 of which he's retired from. But before I talk about him more, if you're enjoying the video and want to catch more news and analysis from the current F1 season, then make sure to press the like button and subscribe to F1 Reverse. Thanks a lot. Andrew Chauvelin said he believes that Antonelli's recent struggles, which included a particularly difficult Belgian GP weekend where he failed to score any points again, are linked to the Mercedes car being more difficult to drive. He said Russell has an advantage in extracting more from the car because he has been leaning on his many years of experience in an F1 car to try and make the most of a difficult car when it comes to qualifying. Kimi hasn't got that to drop back on, added Chauvelin. That's probably why you've seen a bit of a shift in his results recently. But again, it goes back to the fact we've got to solve that problem because there's still a long way to go this year. In Belgium, Lewis Hamilton was seen at the Mercedes hospitality suite a number of times, where he met with Antonelli to offer the young driver some advice and encouragement. The 18-year-old was visibly upset about his result in Sunday's Grand Prix, when he had tardily attended the media pen following his Q1 exit, but he enjoyed unexpected support from the 7-time world champion Hamilton. He came to say hi to the team, and definitely we had a couple of words, Antonelli recounted. He was telling me to keep my head up and that it's normal to have bad weekends and just to keep believing. It was really nice. Antonelli started the main Spa-Francorchamps race from the pit lane as the team attempted to sort out his confidence issues by giving him a high downforce rear wing. The goal was to make his W16 more stable. This did help the Mercedes driver feel more comfortable to some extent, though he struggled to make significant progress and finished 16th from 19th at the start. If the race had stayed wet, then he may have been able to capitalize on the increased downforce, but once the track dried, the increased downforce left him stranded on the straights and unable to make progress. Much like what happened to Hamilton, but if you want to know more about that, then make sure to click the video on your screen right now. And until next time, drive safe and bye for now.